Today, we're going to dig into something that affects pretty much every Canadian, whether you know it or not. We're talking about who's really pulling the strings at Canada's largest newspaper chain. And trust me, the answer is not what you think, and it has massive implications for our country. So, have you ever picked up your local paper and it just feels thinner? Or maybe it's gone completely, and the website that replaced it feels kind of empty. You're not imagining things. This is happening in towns and cities all across the country, and today we're going to find out exactly why.
And look, the symptoms are pretty clear, right? Newsrooms that were once bustling are being absolutely gutted. Those local papers we grew up with, they're vanishing, and you can feel the ripple effects everywhere. Political debates seem so much more hostile, news stories sometimes feel more like propaganda, and because of all this, trust in the media is just plummeting. These aren't separate issues, they're all signs of a much deeper problem.
All right, so to really get what's going on, you've got to do one thing. Follow the money. And that trail leads straight to one single, gigantic company.
Over 130. Let that number sink in. That's how many newspapers in Canada are controlled by just one entity. We're talking everything from the Vancouver Sun out west to the Montreal Gazette in the east. Their reach is just absolutely massive.
And that company? It's Postmedia Network. I guarantee you've seen that name before, even if you didn't think much of it at the time.
But this is the million-dollar question, the one that changes absolutely everything. Who is actually behind Postmedia? Who's calling the shots?
Well, it's not a Canadian company. Nope, the majority owner is Chatham Asset Management. They're an American hedge fund, based out of New Jersey, with really well-documented deep ties to the Republican Party and to Donald Trump.
And this chart, wow, it just lays it all out in black and white. A staggering 66% is owned by that one hedge fund, Chatham. Then you add in the other major shareholders, and you realize that American firms own almost the whole darn thing. Canadian ownership, it's barely even a sliver on the chart.
So you're probably asking, how is this even legal? And what does their business model actually look like? Well, some media analysts have a pretty chilling name for it. They call it a vampire financial model.
It all starts with this idea called the financialization of discourse. Now, that sounds complicated, but it's actually pretty simple. It means the whole point of a news organization changes. It stops being about serving the public and starts being about one thing, squeezing every last penny of financial value out for its owners, even if it means destroying the actual journalism to do it.
Now, Canadian law is supposed to stop this. It limits foreign ownership to 25%. So how does Postmedia get away with it? Well, it's a clever, some might say cynical, little trick. They use something called a dual-class share structure. Basically, the American investors get shares that represent almost all the financial value. We're talking up to 98%. But their voting rights are kept just under the legal limit. It creates this legal fiction that there's Canadian control, when in reality, it completely guts the entire point of the law. So, this is what it boils down to. Postmedia's main business isn't really journalism anymore. Its number one job, its primary purpose, is to pay back the massive debt it owes to its own American owners. Around $500 million. That's roughly how much money has flowed out of this Canadian media company and straight into the pockets of its U.S. creditors since 2010. This is that vampire model in action. It's a business literally designed to drain the value out of Canadian newspapers, leaving a hollowed-out shell behind.
Okay, so that's the money side of it. But how does this all actually impact the news that you and I read every single day? Well, this is what people call the Postmedia Effect.
The editorial direction is, well, it's not exactly subtle, is it? Just look at this timeline. Since the day Postmedia was created, it has endorsed the Conservative Party in every single federal election, no exceptions. And in 2015, they took it a step further, running identical front-page ads across all their papers. That's a coordinated political push on a national scale. And it goes way deeper than just endorsements. This is about strategy. This quote, it's from a leaked internal memo at the Toronto Sun. It literally reveals a plan to, and I quote, manufacture a culture war by using divisive social issues as a tool to undermine their political opponents. And you can see that strategy playing out in their columns all the time. Writers using this incredibly charged, polarizing language, calling something like inclusiveness social Marxism. The goal here isn't to inform or to have a discussion. The goal is to get people angry and to divide them. So let's recap. We have a company designed to pull money out of Canada while pushing a very specific political agenda. But here's the real kicker, the great paradox in all this.
who's actually footing the bill? And here's the part that's just mind-blowing. It's us, you and me, the Canadian taxpayer. Postmedia is one of the biggest beneficiaries of government subsidies that were created specifically to save Canadian journalism.
Take a look at these numbers. In 2022, they got almost $10 million in government aid, which made up most of their operating income. Then, even while reporting a $77 million loss, they still managed to collect over $13 million in tax credits. Just let that sink in for a second. Our tax dollars are being funneled into a foreign-owned company that is actively cutting Canadian newsrooms to pay back its American owners. It's a crazy loop.
All of this, the financial model, the political agenda, the taxpayer subsidies, it all comes at a real, tangible cost. And that cost is to our democracy.
This media strategy of deliberately creating culture wars, it directly fuels something political scientists call effective polarization. It's when we stop seeing people on the other side as just folks we disagree with, and we start seeing them as evil, as immoral, as an actual threat to the country. It completely destroys the common ground you need for a democracy to even work.
And you can see the damage right here in the data. Look at the trust levels. For English-speaking Canadians, trust in local papers, or the CBC, is sitting around 62%. But for Postmedia's flagship paper, the National Post, it's way down at 51%. That's not a coincidence. That is a direct consequence of their entire model.
So let's just put it all together. You have a foreign-owned company controlling a huge chunk of our media. It's extracting wealth from our country. It's using our own tax dollars to help do it, and it's actively working to make our society more polarized. All the facts are right there. The information is out. So the real question isn't what some future historian is going to ask. The question is, what are we as Canadians going to do about it right now?